Dragon Ball Super X was the first Dragon Ball fan manga that I ever read, and that is the reason that I started doing Dragon Ball fan mangas in the first place and became a specialist in the field. So I'm covering the last part of the Dragon Ball Super X story like a little bit over a year later, and I had an interesting question for you guys. Which Dragon Ball fan project got you into other stories, Dragon Ball fan stories in the Dragon Ball universe, whether it be Dragon Ball fan mangas or animations? Let me know in the comment section below.
Prepare yourself, Dan Saiyan.
So if you guys don't remember the story of Dragon Ball Super X, I don't blame you because it takes a long time in between chapters before they actually catch up, and sometimes you can forget a few things. So what I want to tell you guys is that this is a story of Universe 6. This is after the Tournament of Power, and this is a story focused on Cabba, a character that we really don't have too much focus on or really anything to go on and not really much love for. Honestly, I don't really like Cabba as a character in Dragon Ball Super, but in this Dragon Ball fan manga, they actually give him a story arc and they do something interesting and fun with him. So the story begins with Cabba and the other Saiyans trying to keep peace in the galaxy, and they're patrolling Earth and planet Sadala and other planets just normally, and then they find out that there is a bad guy that seems to be from the Freezer race. His name is Bleed, and he is heavily inspired by Cooler. He's running around just killing everybody and heading toward Earth to look for the Dragon Ball. So Cabba tries to face him with his troopers, and his troopers die. He is badly beaten and then ends up going to Universe 7 to of course get help from Goku and Vegeta, who face off against Bleed. They trade blows, they end up going to fusion, but that ends up not even being enough to defeat this guy who can go into all these different forms. So we're stuck in a moment here where Golden Bleed has the upper hand, and we have a situation where Goku is holding a giant spirit bomb that was made by gathering the energy of all the Saiyans and all the inhabitants nearby, and he cannot throw it because in the way, the backdrop to Bleed is Cabba and Vegeta, a passed out Vegeta. So this is the situation we find ourselves in this chapter, the last chapter of Dragon Ball Super X. Now, as the story begins, Super Saiyan God Goku does not want to throw the spirit bomb because he does not want to accidentally kill his friends, but Bleed is not going to give him any chance. Bleed finds out that Goku has the spirit bomb and ends up attacking him, and even though Goku does not want to throw the spirit bomb because of the backdrop, he realizes he's got no other choice. He needs to throw it at Bleed or he's going to get hit by Bleed's attack and die, and the spirit bomb is going to dissipate. So he ends up throwing it, and this leads to a really tense moment where he's yelling for Cabba to get out of the way, pull Vegeta out of the way, and Bleed realizes that Goku cares about what the backdrop is to his person, so he moves out of the way and realizes that the spirit bomb is going to destroy and kill both these Saiyans. So as Bleed moves out of the way, the spirit bomb is coming closer and closer, inching closer and closer to Cabba, and Cabba really thinks this is it. This is the end of the line. He is about to die. But Goku tells him that he can actually push the spirit bomb back. He can push it back with his own energy, his own power, and Cabba realizes he has to do this. Goku tells him, this is the energy of your people. You can push this spirit ball back and hit Bleed, who is flying away. Cabba ends up hitting the spirit bomb with a Super Saiyan styled attack, and it goes flying toward Bleed, who realizes that he's fucked if this hits him, and so he tries to stop it as well, and they basically go on a tug of war on who can push the spirit bomb back to each other, and Cabba is giving it everything he has, and Bleed really isn't trying too much, but he knows that he cannot let this spirit bomb touch him. Goku at this point is no help. He has used all his Super Saiyan God power in the attack, and he is back to normal. He has no more ki left. And this is where Bleed makes the definitive decision that fuck the Earth. He's going to blow it up because he cannot let the spirit ball touch him and push him back. So he hits the spirit ball with a huge attack, and Cabba is definitely on the ropes. He is losing, and this is where Vegeta, a previously knocked out Vegeta, reawakens and pushes Cabba with some inspirational words, telling him how he's forgotten who Bleed has killed. He's killed his comrades, he's gonna kill the Earth and go back to Planet Sadala and kill them. So he needs to push as much as he can. He came back from the brink of death and he is much stronger than he was before. And with this little bit of inspiration, we get to this really cool panel. This is probably the best panel in the chapter for me, and it is Cabba with all his Super Saiyan might pushing the ball as hard as he can, and you can tell he's not doing it alone. This is something that Dragon Ball does a lot, but it's always effective. You have Goku, Vegeta, and some of his fellow dead soldiers around him, and they're all pushing the ball as hard as they can. This pushes Cabba into Super Saiyan 3. Now, the Super Saiyan 3 is far weaker than Bleed's golden version, golden transformation is, but Bleed is completely weakened, and he's not just hitting him with one of his own attacks. He's just using the force of Super Saiyan 3 to push the ball forward that is infused not only with God Ki, but all the Ki and energy from all the Saiyans in the vicinity. And that is when Bleed gets hit with this ball and goes out through the stratosphere into space, heading and hurtling toward the sun. Cabba falls back in a very Gohan style moment, passes out, but gets right back up when Goku lends him a hand. It seems like Goku's kind of more of a mentor in this chapter than, say, Vegeta was. Vegeta just kind of pushed him with inspiration, but it's obvious that Cabba really cares what Vegeta thinks, but he definitely seems to like Goku as well. Now, Bleed is still riding this spirit bomb, and it hasn't exploded, so he still probably can survive it, but the spirit bomb is pushing him into the sun, or one of the suns, maybe even a star off in the distance, and it seems like this is going to be too much to handle, and Bleed dies on this star. Now, this is a way that Cooler was killed in his own respective movie, so villains getting killed by getting shot into the sun in Dragon Ball is something that does happen. I guess the sun's heat is far stronger than they can stand, but it also stands to reason that their bodies, after being battle damaged for so long, maybe can't stand the heat after them being at the brink of death, and that is what makes them disintegrate. Either way, Bleed dies and burns up in the sun. And in his final moments, he remembers that he actually passed Cabba when he was on his way to Earth, and Cabba and him had a moment where they realized each other's presence, but he didn't do anything. One of his soldiers told him to shoot down the Saiyan pod, and Bleed's like, nah, we're just gonna head over to Earth, you don't have to do that. And now Bleed's regretting his decision. He's like, I should have shot down that goddamn pod, fuck. And then he ends up dying. And this marks the end of the story. Vegeta tells Cabba that he's going to come back to Universe 6 to train him whenever he feels like it. The Supreme Kai of Universe 6 brings Goku and Vegeta back to his universe, and Cabba ends up using the Dragon Balls to basically do a Deus Ex Machina and brings everybody back and erases all the damage that was done to the Earth. Now, there is a funny moment where we have this guy. This is one of the soldiers from Bleed's army. He gets up, he vows revenge after the fight. He tries to go back into his Saiyan pod, but then collapses, and we find out here at the very end of the chapter that it was actually Hit. Hit actually made himself available, came in and knocked him out. He could have been there for the fight with Bleed if he had the chance, but he missed it. So he at least got this guy, and he probably is going to try to bring this guy in for some money later. And I just love the way Hit is drawn in this, mainly because we haven't seen Hit in really Dragon Ball fan manga since he had his own story, which at this point now I don't know if it's continuing or not, but yeah, it's definitely a pleasure to see him here. But that basically marks the end of Dragon Ball Super X, the first ever Dragon Ball fan manga that I interacted with, that I read, and that inspired me to continue Dragon Ball fan mangas. Let me know in the comment section below which Dragon Ball fan project led you to love Dragon Ball fan mangas or Dragon Ball fan projects in general. This is going to be Blackscape signing off. Take care, guys.